I'm Farhan Dalla, transformational trainer, and welcome to Elevate Your Life, a transformational podcast, an invitation to take the journey towards your deepest self. It is my intention to inspire you to connect, move, and meditate. We'll tap in, tune in, and dive in, and together learn and reflect from authentic, real, and transformative conversations. Let's get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Today, my guest is Chanoa Inez. Chanoa Inez is the author of Dream On, How to Create the New Life of Your Dreams After Upheaval or Loss. She's also the creator of Magnetize Your Personal Brand, a program that combines personal transformation and personal branding to help students enrich their lives and attract better opportunities. Chenoa healed from a more than 5-year bout of chronic tendonitis, utilizing the teachings of Dr. Joe Dispenza after conventional methods of treatment, including physical therapy, failed her. She's here today to talk about her healing journey and a lot more. Hi, Chenoa.
Hi, Farhan.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, me too. I want to kick this conversation off by kind of mentioning that I'm a physiotherapist and tendonitis
Mhm.
is something that I treat quite regularly. Having said that, through my own personal healing journey with everything that I knew about physiotherapy, chiropractic care, and conventional treatment, I too turned to Dr. Joe's teachings to help heal my own scoliosis. And if you
Mhm.
haven't heard my story, you can listen to my healing journey in episode 1 of this season. I have nothing, obviously, against physical therapy or physiotherapy. I know it there is definitely a place for it, but I also believe in Dr. Joe's work and how it can support our healing to the most deepest levels. So let's start the conversation with your story about your tendonitis. Where did in your body did it start and how?
Mhm. It's such a great question because looking back after everything I've learned about energy centers through Dr. Joe's work, it's really interesting because I remember exactly where I was the moment the pain started coming into my hands, what was happening, and what I was not saying. So that was my fifth center there. So it was just like,
It was in your
uh,
hands, both of them?
yeah, just the back
Okay.
of, one hand in the middle of the hand. And it was like, it was just very intense pain. I was just kind of like rubbing it and thinking like, "Oh, that's strange," but I thought it'd go away, and my hand felt really cold, and I just I didn't really think anything of it because I never had any kind of issues like that. The next day, it was just unbearable, and it went to my wrists, and it was centered in my elbow, my right elbow. And then I started doing a lot of things with my left hand, which I'm right-handed, and quickly they just started marrying each other. It was now both arms, both hands, and it would go to my shoulder, just create this ripple effect of pain, which is wild because I'm a writer, I I was a copywriter still then, and it was really scary because I was actually thinking like, do I need to just change careers at some point because nothing was working for it to go away.
Right. So, I mean, other than your writing, how else was it impacting you day to day? I mean, you use your
Yeah.
hands for so many things, and this is my physiotherapy hat coming in. But like, how did it impact in things like cooking, cleaning, getting dressed, all those things you need your hands for, driving?
Yes. Oh my gosh, getting dressed. Yeah, I forgot about that. Like, there were articles of clothing I had that I just couldn't wear anymore because I would like, put on these tops that are like for hiking, like these workout tops, and they're quite restrained. Trying to get that over my shoulder, I might get it on without pain, but then taking it off, it's like everything would be lit up. Or I'd just need help. I'd be like, I can't take this off. I'd be like about to cry. Cooking, opening a jar could just make my arms that much worse for the rest of the week. So
Mm.
everything was it was really complicated, and I gained a lot of understanding and empathy for people with different disabilities, really. Because I tried programs like talk to text for my typing. They never really worked out, but I tried all these different accessibility features, even with my technological devices, and I just realized there's a whole world out there where people are having trouble getting dressed. And for me, that was like just, quote unquote, just the tendonitis, but there are people with much more complicated and more painful. condition. So it was an interesting time and very eye opening.
Mhm. So you tried physical therapy. Was there anything else that you tried conventionally?
Yeah. Physical therapy, I would go for a lot of massage when things would get really bad. Usually, Thai massage, it would help. It would like buy me back time. And, I'd be in a good place for maybe 4 or 5 days. But again, like every little thing could set me off.
Mhm.
My doctor recommended I get surgery, and I'm glad I said no to that because
What
I
were they
read a
like, what kind of surgery were they gonna do?
I don't know what that surgery entails, but, that was in the hand
Jeez.
when it just happened. I went to the doctor that next day, the day after the pain started,
Uh-huh.
but I read a lot of horror stories about things just getting worse, so I'm glad I didn't do that. So, to function, to type, because the talk to text was just not working,
Mm.
I tried all these different elbow braces and arm braces, and I finally found some after I tried everything. I was buying everything, those stretchy
Right.
armbands to continue,
Yeah.
work at home and everything, but I found some that did work for me, and they would allow me to type, so I couldn't actually use my computer unless I put them on. So, it was like a whole production. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I tried, and then at some point, I just stopped trying, even though I read that untreated tendonitis, like, the tendons can start to wear away, basically.
Mhm.
But I thought, I started doing Dr. Joe's work and I thought, well, maybe one day it'll go away, but I didn't actually focus on that. I was focused on other things.
Mhm.
But I thought, I really felt like I tried everything and I spent so
Right.
much time and so much money trying to fix it. And it was like nothing was working. So I was like, why am I focusing on this thing? I'm just going to wear those when I type and just be careful when I'm doing other things.
Yeah, and just, coming from my experience, there's so many variables, involved in people's healing. So I could have 2 patients with the exact same diagnosis, apply the same treatment protocol, and they're gonna respond in different ways. Like, there's
Wow.
just so many factors that determine, how a person's gonna respond. But that said, you discovered Dr. Joe's work and you started applying the principles, but how did you get introduced to Dr. Joe? Like, where did his teachings come into your world? And
Well, it's interesting because I meditated for a full decade before I started doing Dr. Joe's work. But let's see. First, I heard of him with the movie What the Bleep Do We Not Know? So I knew of
Mhm,
him. I didn't know he had meditations though, so I wasn't actually following his work closely. But if you mentioned him, I knew his name. At the time, I started dating somebody in LA, and they had been to Dr. Joe week long, and they said they meditated every day, but they hadn't actually changed. So they wanted to do another week long, and they wanted to know if I wanted to go. And I was like, "Oh, Dr. Joe, I didn't even know he has meditations. I like that guy. Let's see." So I said I'd try a meditation and let him know. So I think my first meditation was space time, time space, and it was really funny because I was having it was a very stressful week for me. I had a lot of things happening in the 3D that were very complicated. Sat down for this meditation, and when I heard Dr. Joe doing the voice effects, I started laughing. It's just like, what is this? It was kind of like a scoff laugh, like, okay. And then I disappeared into the void. That was it. It was like, haha, gone. And when the
huh,
meditation was done, I was just like, what have I been doing for the last decade? This is the only kind of meditation I wanna do, or I'm not gonna meditate. It was that profound, and the
wow.
complicated things I had happening in the 3D, I resolved it all within 4 or 5 days, just meditating and really hyper focusing on, um, moving through my life as if it had already been resolved, and it was. So I was just really impressed with his work.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, I'll just, um, say it again. Dr. Joe is a chiropractor, author, and lecturer, and he's known for his work in the mind-body healing, neuroscience, and personal transformation, blending quantum physics with ancient wisdom to teach people how to change their reality through meditation and changing beliefs, stemming from his own recovery from a spinal injury. And like Chenoa says, Dr. Joe has retreats where he teaches this material, and I'll have the link in the descriptions to his website so you can learn more. And so you started meditating, but I kind of want to go into breaking down everything that you did. Um, Aside from the meditation, was there anything else in regards to his teachings that you applied?
So when I was meditating, I never meditated for the arms. I had given up on that. I just kind of felt like it's either gonna go away or, it's gonna get better. I'm gonna deal with it. But I don't know why I didn't focus on it. Maybe because I had more pressing health concerns. I had food allergies and several things that had happened, all these grief related health challenges I developed over the years. And that's actually what got me into just meditation in general the
Okay.
decade before. So I was excited to hear about how many people had healings with Dr. Joe. So that was not my concern. Even, I had other things on my list. And I guess it's kind of strange, like, why wouldn't maybe it's because I tried to work on it so much, I just kind of, like, put it into the background. It just kind of became part of, my everyday reality, but I really did let that go. That is interesting. So in terms of how it happened, I don't know if you wanna move it into, actually how this started healing or just more about my practice with Dr. Joe.
Yeah, let's do a little bit more about your practice with Dr. Joe, and
Mhm.
then we'll dive into your healing a bit more. How does that
Mm,
sound? I want to
sure.
learn more. Yeah. What part
So,
of it, like, resonated with you? Like, how did you
uh
know, like, this is the guy for me? I mean, you've been through 5 years of chronic pain, been doing all this meditation in the past.
mhm.
It sounds like you already were a meditator, and then you come across this teaching. So what was it about it that really resonated with you?
I mean, to have my first meditation, of his be, you know I've never been sent into the void like that, and I was one of those people who would do, unguided for an hour, and I'm like, "I have my cacao beans, I can open my third eye," and all that, I've been to, I used to not used to, I did, an ayahuasca retreat in Peru. I've done a lot of different modalities and things, so I wasn't new to this world of, healing and spiritual practices, I'd say, but Dr. Joe's work was just completely different. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I was so far into the void that first meditation, and I kept doing them. I was really impressed with, the music, and then later on, I realized why he was making his voice so strange with those effects
Right.
and that whole, I forgot the term, but for when you're putting your focus, induction, so has you put your focus, on, like, the space around you, the space within you. I forgot the name for that
Right,
term,
right, right, right.
but all of
Okay.
that,
A divergent focus of attention versus
divergent and
convergent
convergent,
focus of attention,
yes,
right. So the
right.
divergent means to bring your awareness around the focal point as opposed to really zeroing in and focus on a particular area. And I think what Chenoa is, alluding to is in his meditations when he does that, when you bring your awareness around the area versus focusing in, you create more coherence in your body and your energy center, right?
Yeah, and I was just really impressed. I realized, this is well-researched work, like, he didn't just say, I like this song and I'm gonna speak to you."
Yeah.
They've really dialed it in, and I continue to do really old meditations, of his, and I love the new ones too, and it's just like I'm constantly impressed by how effective they are, and at this point, you can put on some of his meditations, it's like a half second and that's
You're
it.
in?
I'm deep in a state. So yeah, it's just, I mean, what a gift. I really feel like,
Mm.
you know, circumstances in my life brought me serendipitously to find his meditations then. So I signed up for my first retreat, which was the Denver week long in 2023. And it was wild because, well, many reasons, but a week before that retreat, I was looking for some old poems of mine. I started writing my book around that time and I wanted to see, include a poem or two. And I had some notebooks I happened to have brought for me from Europe, and I only brought a few with me. So I was like just going through each page. I had like very random things in there and just wondering, do I have any more things I've written? And I found like a it looks like a spiritual to-do list, and one of the numbers was Dr. Joe Dispenza. No context, no explanation, but I found it was from a notebook from 2017, so It was just wild. So I had a moment like I could have been, doing all these things, but it wasn't my time. But it was just so odd to find that note there, like, within the week of going to Denver.
And that was a note
So,
you had written to yourself as, like, a things to
yes.
do? Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing how sometimes, like, you'll write something, put it away, and then, you'll look back when you find it, and you're like, "Oh, that was one of my intentions, and it was done." Automatically, you just kinda let it go, and then it happened when it was meant to be.
Yeah, definitely when it was meant to be. So that retreat was, just out of this world, for many reasons, and, I didn't think about the tendonitis there, but, I just felt I knew that there were some intense things happening within me physically, because, um and emotionally too. So, I really enjoyed the meditations, but after most of the meditations, when he would bring us back, to state, I would just kind of it would take me a good 20 minutes to come back to being able to speak,
Right.
and everyone kept trying to talk to me, and I was just like, I can't talk now, like, please, I'm fine, trust me." But I could feel like, it was a very heavy haze after each meditation, and I wouldn't I had so much fun at the retreat, but after after each meditation, I wasn't having fun, and I didn't feel bad. I just felt like there was something happening, something was working, something big was happening, and I feel like it was shaking out stuff I needed to process. I really do. So it was a very different experience than like now when I go to retreats. I'm one of these people. I'm just like I arrive dancing. So
You're ready for the ride. Just bring
I'm
it on.
ready. Yeah.
That's
And then I had some mystical experiences, which was wonderful. And that retreat was really profound in that I think it was the first one where 3 people, at least 3 people, maybe 4, came out of their wheelchairs, and I saw 3 of them
really
with my eyes, including someone, I'd seen everywhere in his, wheelchair, even at dinner at the table behind me, and seeing that while I'm doing my walking meditation, it did something to me that can't be undone. It's
right.
just it's beyond, anything, and again, I wasn't thinking about my tendonitis, I was just like, "Wow." If you need proof, that anything that you're trying to achieve, can't be achieved, just come back to this. Just remember what you saw.
So was there any point where you thought, "Oh, maybe this could help my tendonitis," or how did that healing, come into play?
Yeah, I don't really remember thinking about it much. I'm sure I did in the early days because I feel like I was really trying to force the healings a bit, and then I had to let that go. Um, so I really, first of all, after the retreat, I didn't stop meditating. And I went really hard. I had this strange feeling where it felt like my life depended on me figuring out all the things I was trying to heal for years and doing everything, flying here, flying there, spending so much time and money. So it's not like I wasn't trying, but it felt like this is the time I have to figure this out. So at some point, I mean, for the most part, after I came back, I was meditating 3 or 4 days. I mean, 3 or 4 hours a day. And people are like, "How do you do that?"
Yeah.
Like, "Were you not working?" I said, "I made it like as part of my job, and it was just really important to me, and I really enjoyed it." So I'd meditate a lot by myself.
Mhm.
I joined a private group with other students, and we're meditating on Zoom, and all kinds of strange and wonderful things were happening, but nothing really happened with the arms until after the first year, after I'd been to a retreat, and I didn't go back to another retreat until last year, and then I went to 3. So,
In 1
um,
year?
yeah, 'cause
Okay.
I assumed I had friends who went to so many week-longs, and I thought, "Well, you know, that's excessive." I was thinking, like, I don't need anyone to motivate me or, I don't have a discipline issue, let's say. So,
Mhm.
I felt like, a lot of my friends who went back, they said because they would, start going back to how they were before. So that didn't apply to me, so I didn't see the point. But then I
Mhm.
realized I was hearing more and more profound stories from the retreats, so I wanted to go. And when I went to my first AFU, I was just like, "Whoa, okay." And that's why I went to 3 last year. So it's a very
So an
different reason.
AFU is that for those who don't know, an AFU is an advanced follow-up retreat, and it's for people who've been to a week long.
Yeah. So even though I didn't go back to retreat then, I was basically living like I was at a retreat. That's a lot of meditations every day to be doing,
Yeah.
plus listening to his interviews
Right.
and really just getting, I made it my job to keep finding patterns and limiting beliefs. Um, so I I started feeling pressured. I was giving myself pressure and I found myself in an old perfectionist pattern because a little over doing meditations every single day. There was a day where I thought I meditated and I didn't, and I realized it the next day, and I felt really relieved because it became like this number that was just hanging over my head. Like I have this perfect record. It felt like a trap, and now I don't even meditate every day. I just feel like I meditate a few days a week, usually just a few days a week, but I've kind of just integrated it with my energy now. Like in a second, I can go and change my state, and it's just more about me living that way. But then I just felt like, old perfectionist habits, like, oh, I have this perfect record. So after I missed that, then my meditations became fun, even though I was pretty much meditating every day. I stopped. I was doing it more for the experience of it, and the mystical energy, than anything else, and that's when I noticed I was writing one day and I realized, "Wait, my hands feel pretty good." And I don't know how long they'd felt, considerably better, but that's when I really started thinking like, "Oh," I was doing zero, zero, zero. I was doing nothing to try and make them, better and just living the same way, and they were considerably better, and that's when I started thinking, 1, I realized it has to be the meditation. 2, I started thinking like, "Okay, maybe this can completely go away." So I would experiment and sometimes type without the elbow braces, and it would go good, and then I'd put them back on. Um, then at some point, they got so good that I put the elbow braces in my file cabinet, and I didn't want to see them, but I didn't want to get rid of them because, I wasn't quite sure yet.
Mhm.
And, they were going really well, and then they started getting really bad. And I remembered because I was watching all of these testimonials, mostly because I was focused on reversing those food allergies. But I remembered so many testimonials, people talked about how things got worse. So I was just trying to kind of temper my emotions to not get scared that,
Mhm.
it's just going to get out of hand and I'm not going to be able to, to work most of all. So I would do that and it got worse. It got worse. And then I was doing a Zoom meditation one day with a group of Dr. Joe students. And it's a very lovely compilation of breathwork and meditations that the meditation host created. And I I was not thinking about my arms at all. I was just doing the meditation. And at one point, I saw a purple eye of Horus with my eyes closed and my blindfolds on, a purple eye of Horus. And then I suddenly felt an extreme feeling of love, like extreme, extreme, extreme love, and not coming from a human. It felt like the divine, but it felt like an energy coming from multiple beings, it felt like. And I just started crying, and then my arms shot out, and I had an instantaneous healing. I could feel electricity going from my fingertips to my back, and I was crying with my arms stretched out. Like, did anyone see me? I look like a crazy person. I was so happy. I was just, it was beyond anything. When the meditation was done, I tried to share a little bit and I said, I'm going to send a voice note to the meditation host. I can't talk right now. And that energy really stayed with me for a few days. And then my arms started getting bad again. And I
Mhm.
just couldn't believe it. And I thought, what am I doing? what am I doing wrong here? You know, is there something I'm thinking? Is there something I'm feeling that this is making this happen? Like that was a perfect moment. I thought that was the end. Um, so I I think I already gotten rid of those elbow braces by that point. So I was just typing very carefully and, trying not to get frustrated. And then it started getting extremely, extremely bad. And at that point, I was like, I had my business plus I also had a job with a longtime client. And I was writing my book. So I had this like, I had no room for error in my schedule and a lot of days on the computer as far as I could see. And I remember it got so bad and I was so scared. And I just thought, you know what? I think if that happened, it happened for a reason. It's going to go away. And I need to get let go of this fear and I need to trust because I really think this is going to work for me. And two, when I start worrying about the arms, it brings me back to the victim mindset that I worked so hard to get rid of. And I did, and I somehow made it through those days. It was pretty painful, but I made it through those days. And then it just got progressively better and better and better and better until it completely disappeared. And now today, I started practicing ballet shortly after then. I can do all these things in yoga I couldn't do. I don't need I can do all these things I couldn't do before. And it has really changed my life.
Amazing. You mentioned that you were working on changing your belief systems, that you've been working on that. Did How did changing belief systems correlate to your healing? Was there a specific, belief system related to your healing that you had to change
Hmm.
in order to heal?
Yeah. Um, the victim mindset was a big one. That was just a big one for me in general with a lot of things. And I'd gotten so far with that, but I realized with the arms, I really had that because I kept thinking about, it was like a feeling of feeling like trapped, like no one figured out how to, help me resolve this. Nothing I tried resolve this, and it's still there. So it's kind of like, I guess you could say it was pessimism. I'm not a pessimistic person, but with that, I just kept referencing the past and not seeing that it could be different. So every time I caught myself going there, I would either work on flipping that thought around or just think about something else completely.
Was there a shift in your mindset in regards to your worthiness to receive this healing? Was that a factor?
I don't think so because I did a lot of self love work. In the year before I started doing Dr. Joe's work. And that's when I first started having any kind of changes in the health challenges I was having. I don't think so. Although looking back now, I would say my definitely my self love and self worth is, is so much bigger now than
Mhm.
then. So there are layers to this. So that could possibly be a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I know that, Dr. Joe teaches a lot of breath work. Did you apply any of his breathwork teachings? Is that part of your
Yeah.
practice, and did that support your healing? Since COVID, I have to say that so many of my patients, when I see them, are in a state of fight or flight. And when I
Mhm.
look at their breathing patterns, it's very apical. In other words, they're breathing in their chest and not in their bellies. And so, in to get like them to respond to treatment, I need to put them in a state of rest and relaxation first and teach them how to breathe. And it's so predominant now. So
Mm.
did the breath work have any influence? And did use this as to address any of your stress or some of the things that you were dealing with or coping with that were stressful at that time of your life? And how did that help or support your healing?
Well, I think I'm a person who often breathes in my chest. I don't know. It's a bad habit. I know I don't breathe the way I should. Um, and yeah, I have that. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's I drink a lot of caffeine and kind of like go, go, go. And I'll realize you're not really breathing or you're breathing very shallow, but I feel very happy. But his breath work has been profound for me. Yeah, I love it. And even if I'm not going to meditate, I love sitting down and doing his breath work, which, if your listeners are not familiar, it's a guess you could describe it as it's very physical.
Mhm.
A breath that goes up you're basically following the spine, um, and pulling the mind out of the body, it's called now. It used to
Mhm.
be called the intrinsic breath. I love it. Some people don't love it because it's kind of awkward. You're bringing energy from your first center up, and it's a really passionate maneuver, and it's very intense. I do love it because I feel an instant difference. So sometimes even just like I might have a busy day and I'm just like, oh, let me just go do a song, one round of breath work, or a few rounds of breath work and then head out. It really does change my energy. And back at around that time, that would be the period that I saw some people were doing a challenge with his Inspire 2 breathwork album, and they were playing the continuous mix. And so doing, I think an hour plus breath work, slightly over an hour. So I remember I did do it one time, and I keep saying I'll do it again, and yet I have not, but I probably will one day because it was fascinating. It's like in the beginning, I was just like, "Oh, this is fun." And then it's like after, I don't know, probably like 15 minutes, I was just very annoyed, like thinking
Yeah.
like, "Why am I doing this?" Like, "Oh, this is a drag." And then at some point, it's like my body was just doing the breath for me, and I was just observing it. And then it got very, I saw all the visuals, the fractals, and it just went. It was quite profound. And then I had a day that was just totally aligned. But that would have been around that time. Long story short, yes, I did a lot of breath work generally, and I find it's really easy for me to snap out of like a bad mood or if I just find myself kind of like worrying about something, do a little breath in it's a really fast tool for me to shift.
Mhm. I'd agree. It's part of my practice as well, and they've had
Yeah.
very physical responses to some of the breath work to the point now where, I mean, I don't want to scare anyone, but I make sure I'm seated in a comfortable place where there's no sharp objects because I've been
Yeah.
known to fall on the ground, especially in Cancun, where that happened for the
Mm.
first time. But thankfully, I was on the beach and landed on the sand, and it was pretty fine. And I
Have you
thought, I'm
ever
not going
moved?
to.
Oh, go ahead.
Just gonna make sure I always do this at home where
Yeah.
I'm in a safe environment where there's nothing to hit my head on. But yeah,
Yeah.
technically, when you do this, your body could have a physiological response, and it's great. It feels great, and there are a lot of benefits, including some of the ones that you had mentioned as well. And I also feel when I do the breath work, it just sets the stage for the meditation to follow much better.
Mm.
Like it just
Mhm.
arouses me so that I can actually stay awake because I meditate very early, and then keeps me a bit alert. Though sometimes I will admit I do go into a deep state or fall asleep. I don't, there's sometimes where there's moments of my meditation where I'm like, where was I? I don't remember.
I
So,
did the breath after a meditation recently, just
mhm,
randomly, and I wanna experiment with that more. That was an interesting feeling.
amazing. Well, how did your healing change your life? Like, how did your tendonitis change your life?
I mean, how didn't it would probably be I mean, everything is different, everything. I can do so many things. I mean, I had a feng shui consultation last year. I was able to move around furniture. I mean, the heaviest furniture. I recruited a friend to help me, but I can do things that before would have been like, "Oh, that's great." I can't do it. I'd have to have someone do it for me, or I'd have to be worrying about like, what will Monday be like? Will I be able to type? Um, so that's very different. Right now, um, like I said, I started doing ballet lessons last year. I practice that still, and that would have been impossible. um, there are a lot of things I couldn't do in yoga, and so yoga and like Pilates, I would try and do a little bit of stuff because I know it was important to keep um, the tendons flexible. But I never knew if it was going to be helpful or it'd be a moment where it's like, okay,
Mhm.
it's like another tendonitis crisis. So that changed, and now I really love. mat work, Pilates again. I love yoga. I can do chaturanga, dandasana, and all these things I could not do before. I would have to do these really sad, modified at home yoga sessions. It's like, downward facing dog could just ruin my hands. And now, I have all this more, I have this range of motion. It's still going further. Like, I know my wrist will be able to flex more over time, and I've been seeing how they're letting go more, and it's just, I mean, it's so exciting. It was something that impacted everything. Exercise, just functioning around the house, work, um, like you said, like getting dressed. I mean, having to edit my wardrobe because I was just like, I really want to wear that, but that might make me cry. It's like, yeah, it's life changing.
Mhm. Did you notice anything as far as with this healing in your fifth energy center? Because you mentioned
Hmm.
earlier how
Yeah.
there was aspects of what you had said or didn't say that was impacting your fifth energy center, and how did that correlate to your healing?
Ooh, yeah. Um, I've done a lot of work, so there are a lot of things that I've now integrated, and these are like standards I stick to. But I'm I'm not gonna say I'm afraid of it, not using my voice. I'll say I'm very. It's a standard I'm very strict about in my life. And, now I've gotten pretty good at speaking my mind in real time. It took me a while. At first, I would, realize even the next day, like, "Wait, I really wanted to say this thing and I didn't." And then I would go back and say it, which is even more awkward. But it usually worked out, which is great. And I felt like the universe was just like, even in situations where I was like, "This is really gonna be now like a thing." No, it was usually not a thing, like 9 out of 10 times. I stick to that because I know that this happened to me because I was not using my voice. In the moment that that pain set in, um, you know, eh, I was something was happening, and I was so emotionally hurt by this thing that was happening, this event. I had so much deep emotional pain, and I basically said, like, "I'm fine." And I was just sitting there and, uh observing this event, and it was such a deep blow to me. It was such a painful thing that had occurred, and I just kind of just put my own needs completely into the background, and just like smiled, like, get along to go along, as they say. um but it really did hurt, and I'd never said anything about it. So I'm curious, when I think back, if I had realized that, sooner, would that have gone away? Because I know a lot of people, can have a temporary bout of tendonitis, and it could just be a few weeks, and I wonder if it's because I sat with that, and then all the other things I didn't say after that, that just compounded. So, I'm very careful about that, and, I know it's a big thing for a lot of people, but I also know a lot of women, that they're just, we have somehow conditioned ourselves to not ruffle feathers in a certain way, and which is funny because for some things I would have ruffled feathers just fine, but in other scenarios, no. I just swallowed the pain.
Hmm.
So it was really eye-opening going to that Dr. Geometry and just seeing, like, wait, the arms are connected to the fifth center, and I'm just like, wow, that couldn't have been like a more clean, direct line from that circumstance and that happening in real time. So actually, I haven't thought of this before, but now looking back, I'm sure there are other things I was not saying then, but that was such an extreme moment. So this was probably on its way, some kind of fifth center issue. And that just really was a straw that broke the camel's back.
Mhm. Looking back now, what would you say was the gift or the message you received through this healing?
Hmm. Oh, wow. That's great. Well, I would say, I don't know which one to pick. All right, I'll pick this one. I'll pick really that anything is possible for me. To have had this dramatic healing, um, while I was not actively trying to heal, I'd given up on it. I was no longer doing anything physical to try and heal it. So there's like quote unquote no reason that, it should heal. It really, it's one of these things I can look back on, and no matter what I'm working to create or working to become, I can look at this and it's just like this really stunning evidence for me to remember what's possible.
Yeah, and I'd also add it shows how powerful you are, right? And our potential. What else is possible?
Yes, yeah.
And you mentioned that you had originally started this work to work on other things like food allergies and whatnot.
Hmm, hmm.
What else have you healed through doing Dr. Gerald's work? Is there anything else that you've been working on or have worked
Yeah.
on?
Yeah, it's hard to say then which ones are. I know the Dr. Joe's work was definitely the tendonitis, but either way, it would have been contributed to the healings, because it's all kind of, I think, if you're doing any different
Yeah.
modalities, it's all there. But Dr. Joe's work was definitely in the forefront. Um, yeah, so food allergies, all of them, except the tree nut one, which is on its way out. I could actually have one or two here and may or may not need to have Benadryl. Peanut allergies are resolved. Soy allergies are resolved. Um, what else? There were a lot of things. There were chronic ovarian cysts, some of which would send me to the ER. Uh, yeah, well, I had one that sent me to the ER one time after I started doing his work. But that's it. And I was having them all the time though, so it was like a chronic issue. Now that's non-existent. Basically, I had several health challenges, nothing serious. The tendonitis was the most serious in terms of its impact on my life. Um, but everything is gone except for, the tree nuts, which I said is on its way out. So I'm sure that'll just be a matter of time. So there are just so many things I'm like trying to remember now because it's like my health is perfect. And that's a game changer. And actually back to the allergies, even just going to restaurants now, I won't order something that has tree nuts in it, but I won't tell the server I have allergies when they ask. I don't do that. I just eat. Um, and that has changed my life because I had this identity of having allergies and I had the identity of, the tendonitis. Everything was just so complicated. So all of these things have given me this level of freedom that is just kind of remarkable.
Amazing. And would you mind sharing, if you will, any of the mystical experiences that you mentioned that you had?
Mm. Oh, sure. Um, so, hmm, let me think of one from my
Because
last retreat. Yeah.
I would say that just as much as the physical healings and whatnot, I am so fascinated with the mystic experiences too. Like, I've heard some incredible stories, so I love this part of the conversation just as much as the physical healing.
Well, that instantaneous healing, that was definitely a mystical experience. But I'll give you
Wait,
one from right after my first retreat, and then one that happened at my last retreat. So, um, in the days, it might have been the first night I was home after the retreat. I was committed to getting up really early and doing meditations, and I'm not like an early morning person. um, but I got up and I was like, no, let me just try and do it at least, here and there. I woke up whatever hour it was, I think 4, and uh, I turned off my alarm and I looked and I thought like, I don't need to. I was like, I'll do this later. And I turned to get back in bed and this like a giant a giant translucent hand pushed me out of my bed. But it was like a cartoon. So my friends asked me like, "You weren't scared?" And I said, "No." I laughed because I was like, it was so absurd. Like, I
I'm
steadied
just
my
trying to
footing.
visualize how this is happening right now. Like something like literally pushes you out,
Yes, like a
and all you
big
could feel or see
translucent
is
hand.
a hand.
Yeah, big
You could see this
translucent
hand.
hand.
Okay.
Like, I couldn't see it because it was pushing me from behind, but
Okay.
I felt it. So I have this picture in my head of what it looks like, which I don't know if that's accurate, but a giant, just think, picture like a giant, like, Mickey Mouse kind of hand,
Okay.
um, pushing me out of the bed. So it pushed me into the hallway and I steadied myself and giggled. It was so strange. And then I went to the living room, just put my blindfold on and did a meditation. And I don't remember which one I did, but it was just so profound. It was really profound. And I was also surprised that I didn't feel nervous, just like you had that very weird thing happen and now you're gonna put your blindfolds on and do this meditation. Like it didn't feel eerie. It just felt comical and like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to do this now. Um and so I started having out of body experiences in October at the third retreat. This was in Denver, an advanced follow up retreat. And I met a friend of a friend, and she told me, if you left your body, now it's going to start happening all the time. And I thought, yeah, that's great. But it didn't start happening all the time um, until actually, no, I was wrong with the timeline. It was my second retreat. So May, that started happening. And then it didn't happen again until I was on my way to my third retreat in October. I was on the plane and I left my body. That was wild.
On the plane.
On the
Well,
plane.
well, let's go back to when it happened in the retreat. What was that like? Like, what did it feel like? And
Oh, yeah. It's a good question. Um, so for many of the for anyone who's not been to a retreat, for many of the meditations, even the ones you do at home, um, the longer ones, many of the longer ones, they're so intense and we're making all these changes in our bodies. So there's often a portion where you lay down, and that's
Mhm.
for your body to integrate all that you've just undergone. So I was in the lay down portion, and I usually at retreats I like to do that. Like I just have socks on, thick socks on. It's very cold there, and
Yeah.
I'll have like a blanket over me. But this is one of the times I was just like I was chit chatting, and I came back at the last minute, so I just ran and I ended up on the floor. So I had sneakers on still, and I was doing the lay down portion, and I just felt like everything felt very strange. I remember everything was like gray around me, hazy, just, with my eyes closed, just very I don't know, I felt like I was somewhere else, but I was not thinking about it too much, I was in that state. Um, but I was very aware of how awkward it felt to have sneakers on because of the way they positioned my feet, just having this kind of, it's not like my feet are flat on the ground with the socks on. And at some point, I realized, oh, I don't feel my sneakers. And then I fell back into my body. And that's when I knew it happened. So that's when I got really excited. So it was just like a feeling of I'm not just realizing I was not there. So the problem with that is when I realized that, I came back to it quickly because, like a lot of my early mystical experiences, I was so excited about it that I made it go away because I changed my brain states abruptly. So, yeah, it didn't happen again until it happened on the plane, and that one was wonderful because I didn't disrupt it. I knew it was
Wait,
happening,
so are you
and
meditating on the plane, or like did you just
yeah,
spontaneously leave your body? Like,
I was
trying to
meditating.
you're meditating on the plane. Okay.
I love meditating on the plane, and it's so
Uh-huh.
funny, like, I went to a friend's milestone birthday party a few months ago, and another friend from LA was going there, so, like, I see how, my friends struggle with the long flights, and for me, every flight goes quickly because I just, like I do a few meditations, and it's like, it's over, and that
Right.
flight, I was doing meditations, and I realized the person next to me was meditating, so we started talking about meditations, but anyway, I'm a nerd about that. There's something about being up there where, I rarely use Wi-Fi on planes. I like to just have that be like a creative zone. So I really check out.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah. So that happened. But then, as if that wasn't strange enough, that was registration day. I registered and then I was really sleepy. I think I woke up at like 2 something to go to the airport and I decided to go rest and I was planning to take a nap, but as soon as my back hit the bed, I left my body again. And I just yeah. So then I was in a study that I can't talk about yet because it's not out yet, it's not
Right.
published yet, but it was related to the retreat. So it was funny, I thought, I wonder if because I'm part of the study, if I won't if it's gonna be like less trippy for me. And now, and it was my first meditation before I was like set up with the equipment was very out of this world, and then everything else was just a lot more tame. But then my last retreat in December, so this is my second time doing the week long. So that was like the first retreat I did. And I decided, I want more time. I love the advanced follow-ups, but I would love them to be like a day longer. I think that would be perfect for me.
Mhm.
So I thought, let me just go do another week long. And it was great. But the first day I started second day, I started thinking like, maybe I messed up. Maybe this is not for someone who's so advanced. And then quickly everything changed. It felt like an advanced follow-up retreat. And things just started happening all the time, including I kept leaving my body to the point where I had to go and ask the medical team how to get back in it because I would leave a meditation. There was one day I was walking and I was we're on a snack break and I was walking around and people were trying to talk to me and I was having trouble forming sentences. And I said, I'm sorry, I must look like a weirdo. And I said, I'm not in my body. And so I went back and they helped me to get back into my body and explained what I can do.
Mhm.
And then I realized it kept happening throughout the week, but I basically got used to it. But I mean, so as much as like going to bed at night and realizing I'm not completely at my body, but I just acclimated to it. So it was very interesting. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen. There's some kind of cumulative effect once these things start to happen to you.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had that experience, and, I'm glad you shared that with me because now when it does, I know who to speak to as far as, like, what to do and how to get back in. But I recently I think it was, like, last fall, I tried doing a meditation on a flight, and it was super early in the morning,
Hmm.
and it was one of those really, like, the flight was leaving at 6, and so everyone was asleep, and I thought, "Oh, this is really a nice time to meditate," and the next thing I knew, I started having a physical reaction, and I started, like, moving and bouncing, and it was
With
not the
sounds.
turbulence. I thought, "Oh, no," right? And the guy next to me just was like he calls the flight attendant thinking something's wrong and
Oh my
taps me on the
gosh.
shoulder, is like, "Are you okay?" And I thought, "What is everyone worried about?" I just opened my eyes like, "What's going on?" Oh, no. And then I realized I scared everybody and I, was bouncing up in my seat. So I must have disrupted and woken up the guy next to me. And I was like, dude, I'm
Uh,
totally fine. Don't worry about it. So then I thought maybe I shouldn't meditate on a plane anymore.
It's been fine. I don't do the breath on the plane anymore because
Yeah.
I used to be able to do it discreetly, but now I just feel like it's too much. I never know if I'm gonna like make a sound. Like I made a sound that sounds like a cat. I don't know, it's like a wild cat. And I'm just like, I don't know. My last retreat, my seatmate, a new friend, she told me, you were making all these sounds. And I don't remember that. So I'm just
Yeah.
like, let me
Yeah.
not alarm
Yeah.
yeah, people. Like,
We can laugh about it now, but like in that moment, it can be kind of weird to the people around you sometimes, but it's normal. Everyone has a reaction of some sort.
yeah.
Whether it's like, a laugh attack or, tears or screams
Mm.
or cat sounds, it's just like whatever now.
Well,
But
speaking of laugh attack,
yeah.
there was a laugh attack in one of the meditations at that week long.
Mhm,
This was a meditation it involved the kaleidoscope, and it was in preparation for the pineal gland meditation, which was going to be the next day. And the lecture showed us, Dr. Joe didn't have this my first retreat, but this one, there was a lecture that showed examples of various mystical experiences with their names and pictures. And we started doing the meditation, and this man starts laughing. And on top of it, he has a very comical laugh. And it was just ridiculous. And then other people started laughing, and then he started laughing louder. And I was just like, uh oh. So everyone's going through this. And I allowed myself to laugh a few times. And then I thought, okay, even though everyone's laughing, I want to get back into state. And we're in the lie down portion at this point. And I thought, can I stay in a meditative state while everyone's laughing? And then my next question was, could I leave my body on command? It was just like a curious, playful question. Now everyone's cracking up now. And at some point, Dr. Joe ends the meditation, and he ends it by putting a joke in, into whatever he's saying about everyone laughing. And I just like kind of like I'm pushing all of that to the background. Everyone's laughter, Dr. Joe speaking, I'm still laying there. And I picture the picture he showed for an example of leaving the body. And it was a woman laying on like some kind of platform in like a white nightgown. And then you see the gold spirit leaving her. And I picture that. So I picture like a gold spirit and I left my body. He
Wow.
gives instructions for the break, instructions for later that day, instructions for the next day. People start getting up, leaving. I'm still just laying there and I'm way above my body and I couldn't believe it. It
Mm.
was wild.
So
So
could you
I'm
see everybody laughing from up there? Or like I imagine you're floating above your body at this point and you're just
I'm
kind of like,
floating.
yeah,
I couldn't see them, but I was very aware of myself being
right.
above myself and me laying here.
Was that in
Um,
Orlando by any chance? Like, was that?
this was San Diego
Oh, okay.
in
Right.
December, and
Yeah.
it was just wild. I finally was like, okay, I'm gonna get back into my body. I got back into my body and so just laid there for a while. I mean, it's still very like I'm like in awe about it. Um, it just blew my mind and it was really cool because one, I assumed you'd have to be leaving your body for decades to get to a state like that. The fact that that happened and that I wasn't attached to that outcome. It was just
Mm,
like a playful, curious, I wonder if I can do this, and it happened. Now I approach things differently and I just ask, can I do this? And things don't always happen right away or they haven't happened yet. But
mhm.
it changed my relationship with like, oh, this is fun. Let's see what can happen.
So amazing. So I want to switch gears a bit and I want to talk about your book. It's called Dream On: How to Create the New Life of Your Dreams
Mhm.
After Upheaval or Loss. Tell me, why did you write this book? What was your mission in writing this book?
Um, so I experienced a really terrible loss. Long story short, I was living in Miami. My boyfriend was from Montenegro, and I went there on vacation. I didn't want to come back. I was just like in a depression. I didn't want to talk about vacation. So we agreed that we'd go back the next summer, spend the whole summer there, and move out of our place in Miami, but put our things in storage to see if it works with business, or if we even want to stay there. If we don't want to, we can just come back. Um, so the next summer we went there and the first day was just magical. It was the first time in my life up until then that it felt like everything was perfect. Um, but unfortunately in the morning he didn't wake up. He passed away from a clot.
I'm
And
so
it
sorry.
yeah, thank you. It just, it was my life was essentially destroyed in a second. My life as I knew it was destroyed. And I was still in my 20s. I didn't have any tools. All the things I'd been through before then, it was just like you kind of like you keep moving forward in life, but nothing's really dealt with. And I had a huge victim mindset, which I didn't know at the time. I didn't know this terminology. I didn't meditate, none of those things. And that made it worse because I was really like, why me? Why did this happen? Like, um, and so now I can look back and be grateful for all the health challenges I had. I started having all those allergies and different many different health issues that were just like basically sapped my vitality over time. And I didn't know why. But the good news about that is that's why I started seeking and started meditating, going to yoga, just looking for what is an answer because there were no answers in conventional medicine for me. And that's what, brought me along this journey that brought me to where I am today. And so it was really important for me to write the book because I didn't realize it was grief that was connected to all the health related challenges. I knew that there was stress and emotional things, but I didn't know it was still connected to that moment. And things really started changing when I realized I didn't love myself as much as I thought I did because I was, based on the people I had in my life, I was like, that's not you can say you love yourself all day long, but that's reflected in your decisions. And I was like, if I chose to have these people in my life, that's not love for myself. So things started speeding up and I started feeling a lot better. This was after I moved to LA. I ended up staying in Europe for 7 years, almost 7 years. and then moved to Los Angeles. And that helped. And then I started doing Dr. Joe's work, and it was really wild because there was just a point in my life where everything felt wonderful. I was just, you know, shining, grateful, just everything just it felt completely different. And I was walking across my living room and I realized, oh my gosh, I only just stepped out of that cloud of grief all of those years later. And then my next thought was that I have to write a book because it shouldn't, it doesn't have to take anybody as long as it did for me. But a lot of people got stuck in this um, zone where they feel like they've processed the grief or they processed the disappointment or whatever the challenge was in life enough and that they've moved on from it. But meanwhile, they're not. So I was still operating from a place of avoiding loss, and I'd shrunk my dreams small, and I didn't realize that. But it was all just like fear based and not wanting to have that kind of devastation again. So my book's designed to help people recover from challenges, all kinds of challenges, a lot faster, and really to realize what they're capable of. I offer these I guide them through this whole process, and I offer these different techniques and exercises, but I'm always bringing back to the person. It's
Mhm.
really, at the end of the day, about, 1, reconnecting to joy,
Yeah.
but 2, realizing that you're always gonna be that expert in your life, and just establishing that relationship with yourself where you can trust yourself, and see what you're capable of. So we can learn so much from other people. I've learned so much from Dr. Joe, and I had to give him a shout out, of course, in the book. Um, but, not handing our power away and just realizing what we're capable of.
Mhm. And grief is universal, and I I can certainly, and like many, understand how difficult it is to navigate grief because there is no roadmap in many ways, right? There's no right or wrong way to process and get through. And I often say you don't always get through. You kind of learn to live with it to a certain degree.
Yeah.
I did my whole first season of my podcast on grief, and the whole reason why I started my podcast was after the transitioning of my mom, and I needed a way
Mhm.
to express my grief and also share all the tools that I used in my journey, everything from
Yeah.
art to music, podcasting. I learned a whole new skill and found ways to take that energy and put it towards a life of meaning. So, I wish I'd read your book a few years ago, but I will definitely, read it now. I definitely want a copy. Um, do you do you incorporate any of Dr. Joe's work in your writing or your teachings?
Um, I did mention, I recommended various modalities to people, and I really explained the power of Dr. Joe's meditation, as opposed to just picking any form of meditation. And that was really important to me, but I also know that while I've seen what it can do for people who had never have been interested in, going to a meditation retreat or anything like that, I really think it's important to have personal preferences. So I named various modalities, but I really put his to the forefront. And also EFT tapping, I thought that was important. It's a good one
Hmm,
also for it helped me remove a lot of subconscious blocks. And I think, I know a lot of people still gravitate towards therapy, and a lot of therapists do offer that. So at least it's very different from like the traditional paths of like hashing out the past. Um, but also the coherence healings have been very important to me. Um, and so I did mention that in my book too. Um, and not as, just for listeners who aren't familiar with that, it's a form of remote healing in the sense that you're not touching the person, and it uses Dr. Joe's techniques of heart brain coherence. Um, that was really important for me to mention, and not as something like, oh, here's this thing that's going to fix me, but as something that I know did help me with some parts of my healing journey because I received remote healings and I felt some physical phenomena and some improvements. Like probably the ovarian cyst that was probably resolved due to that work I was doing. But also I work I'm on the other side. I'm a healer. And I just yeah, I think it's a really important and effective uh modality. And so I was sure to just mention that and just at work and how that processes because it's really important to me. So I didn't go too far into Dr. Joe's work. I certainly mentioned what parts of his work helped me. Um, but yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about coherence healings, but
Yeah, I'll just quickly mention coherence healings are when anyone who needs healing receives healings from healers, and Dr. Joe offers coherence healings on his website. Anyone who needs a healing can sign up, and there's volunteers there every day supporting people multiple times a day throughout the world. You can get a healing for free. There's no cost associated with it. And he definitely offers healings or coherence healings at his retreats as well. So for more information, definitely check out his website in regards to that. Shanoa, where can we find your book? Where is it available?
uh it's available on Audible, Amazon, Apple Books, Kobe, Pothy, and I think that's everywhere.
Okay. Well, I'll have some of those links in the description notes so that if anyone's interested, they can look it up. I think it's a very important book, and I think that I appreciate myself for someone who's gone through and is still navigating grief,
I'm sorry.
resources and tools,
Mhm.
because it is an ongoing journey. I mean, it's been 5 years since my mom transitioned, and only this year was the first time I attended any of our celebrations. Our New Year's was on Saturday, and I stopped going to all our holidays and any special
Mhm.
occasions up until recently. And as to whether I'll go in the future or not, it'll be something that I decide in the moment and how I feel. But it is something that I still process and every day,
Yeah.
and continue to find ways to honor my mom and celebrate her. But I still miss her. I
Oh,
wholeheartedly miss her every day.
so
But you know,
sorry.
thank you.
Mhm.
I want to thank you so much for being here with me today and sharing your journey. It's an amazing journey. I am so happy for you. I'm so glad that your hands healed, your digestive system, and the food allergies. And I would love for you to come back, again in the future and talk about any updates. It would be great to have you
Oh,
again.
yes. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and moving forward, I continue to pray for your happiness, for your health. May you always be happy, healthy, joyful, and may you continue to be the light that you are and share your knowledge and wisdom through your writing, through your posts, and any other way that feels inspired to do so. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Farhan. This has been amazing.
I'm Farhan Dalla. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's episode of Elevate Your Life, a transformational podcast. I hope today's conversation has elevated you in some way and inspired you to connect, move, and meditate. I'd really appreciate your support by following and rating this podcast. Come back soon and join me for another transformative conversation.